Well, it's zombie time once again, you guys, as we're talking episode 10 of season 9 called Omega. And so this episode starts off with Henry still down in the cell as he's talking with Lydia, and they're still trying to get to know each other. And this time it's Lydia kind of doing some more of the talking. Not surprising, as I felt that she's just basically trying to use Henry to get information and so forth. But as she's talking, she gives us a flashback to where her and her family kind of came from a little bit, at least at the start of the apocalypse. So she flashes back and we see Lydia as a young girl, and maybe she's all a bit of, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6, maybe a little bit older, not by much, and she's with her father and her mother, and they're in some bit of a basement of some sort, and they can still hear what's going on outside, and like the windows are boarded up and so forth, but they're kind of showing us just a little glimpse of what they were stuck with, and there's a sign that says like 23 days since the apocalypse started or so forth. And what I thought was interesting at first note was showing her father, which I think his name was Frank, and how they were depicting him kind of as well, an alpha, if you will. He was kind of being very demanding to his wife, just kind of saying this is the way it's going to be, and telling his daughter like there's no hope and no one's coming for him. So just being really mean and just if anything, very abusive with her words, right? But we didn't see any physical full abuse on, but that's what we're getting the picture. So we start to get a little understanding of what's going on there. But as the conversations go on, and this is exactly what I was trying to talk about in my last episode, maybe I didn't say it as well as I could have, but basically is that Henry was letting on way too much information, right? That's why when I saw that scene of this week's episode where Daryl's pulling his ass out of the cell and tossing him up there and starts yelling at him, I was like, I know what he's yelling at him about. Now, true, we didn't see the full conversation. He could have been just saying, hey, nice job in there, keep it going, but Daryl wasn't. Daryl was, if he was playing the good cop, bad cop, he's the only one that kneed about that. Usually when you play good cop, bad cop, both parties are aware of the situation so that they can work off each other. Daryl was just orchestrating this whole thing by himself and just kind of letting Henry just kind of play along. And so, but basically Henry did not disappoint. He pretty much started letting on information about the kingdom, location, about a day's walk, ride away or something like that, and all this stuff. Daryl comes down there, snatches his ass out of there, and you can see Lydia's fear because she's scared of Daryl, which is good, and she should be. And so they get up topside, and he's like, "What are you doing down there?" Telling him about the kingdom. Exactly, it's exactly what I was talking about last week in my episode. But Henry, his stupidity, you almost just can't fathom it. I mean, I get it. He's a young boy and he's impressionable and he wants to try and do the right thing, and as many people have tried to do, but I think he's seen enough of that where, things do not work out when you go that route. But anyways, he tries to do it. He tries to do it so much so that later on in the episode, he actually goes down after a conversation with Daryl, which we'll talk about in a quick second, and he lets her out. He says, hey, I just want to give you a little tour of the compound and just let's just see how good things could be and so forth. My mouth, literally, I couldn't see myself, but I think it just felt my jaw just drop. I'm just like, how, why, no, what are you doing? And they get topside, right? And she's kind of looking around, and I can already tell what she's thinking. She's like, nice, this idiot's gonna make a mistake and let me get by. And so again, this kind of all stemmed from when a conversation he had with Daryl, and when he was listening to Daryl talk with Lydia about, because he unveiled some scarring that she had on her arm. It looked like she had been beaten, and so probably what we presume is her mother. And so they're trying to build that connection there a little bit. And so Henry asks Daryl, he goes, hey, did someone beat you, up when you were younger, or this or that? And of course we all know that Daryl's and his brother's dad were very, very abusive. And so, Daryl, of course, he tries to play that off pretty quick and just try to put it back on the story of Henry messing up and not to trust Lydia and so forth. But Henry is making a good point. I mean, she clearly has some issues, right? And maybe she can be fixed. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe she's just going to side back with her mother and then destroy the whole colony and everybody else that's around. So, this is a big time mistakes being made here on Henry's part. And again, it builds good drama. So I don't hate Henry's character. Don't get me wrong. He brings something good to the table, but I just can't help it. I'm just like, oh boy, you cannot be this naive, even at your age, and especially in the apocalypse. So moving forward, let's talk a little bit about Tara leading the group out to look for Luke and Alden. So they get out there and they come across a herd, excuse me, not even a herd, just a small group of walkers, and they're feeding, but they're being smart about it now. So they're with Yumiko, Connie, and Kelly. Magna's out there too, and they get up on the group and they just decimate the entire group. They can tell that they're all full walkers, but as the camera shows, they're always being watched, right? These things are always in the background, these whispers. And so they get done killing them, but they start to realize we're not going to find them out here. I mean, we need to go back, regroup, and come up with a better plan. And so they decide to do so, and after getting back, Yumiko is not satisfied with the results, and that she wants to get out there and make sure that they can find Luke, because he is one of their original members, help them to survive. I think we find out from Kelly that when she was alone, that he found her and helped her get to safety. So, there's a lot of emotion going on there. So these guys decide to sneak back out in the middle of the night. So I think it was Kelly that saw the young ones when they got out before, when they went on their little drinking binge or whatever. So they know the exit out. I'm hoping that Tara knows about this, and by the end we find out, since Tara caught them, that hopefully she knows about this exit. But this is not a good thing to have an entry exit point that you're unaware of, that maybe somebody could use against you. So let's hope they get that under wraps. But yeah, these guys sneak back out. So it's just Yumiko, Connie, Kelly, and Magna, and they're out there, and in the night, and suddenly a couple walkers pop out, and that's how quick it can happen, right? Especially when it's nighttime. And I'm just feeling the tension. This is a great scene. Love those nighttime scenes. I wish they could do more of them, but I know they're like 10 times harder to shoot in the film. But either way, so as they're looking around, they see there's more of them in the background, and that's when we see Kelly's breakdown, saying that she can't leave. She needs to stay out there and look for Luke because he saved her, and she needs to do the same for him. So Yumiko and Magna decide to go back, and Connie says that she'll stay with her sister, and then they'll continue to look. So, super, super dangerous. We don't get to see the rest of their journey while they're out there. We only get to see the final when they come back to the colony, which we'll get to that in just a second, because I'm going to wrap up a few last things before we get to the final ending of the episode. So now let's talk about after Henry lets Lydia out of the basement, right? So when they get topside, and they're kind of talking for a few minutes, and they try to hide because there's some sentries and stuff looking around and so forth. He goes to the side, and then she gives him like a worm and shows him like, yeah, worms are good to eat and so forth, and he eats the worm. And while all this is going on, he finally gets up and he's turning his back to her like left and right, and I'm just like, oh my God, could you please not do that, right? But he does, and there's a hammer on one of the blacksmith tables, I guess, behind her, and she starts reaching for it, and we're just like, we can see where this is probably going. But as the conversation starts to develop, all of a sudden a baby starts crying in the background. And Lydia starts paying really close attention to this, and then it kind of sends her into hysterics, which seems legitimate. And I mean, like, she's taken a lot of abuse, clearly, from her mother, father, maybe combo, but mostly it sounds like from her mother. And so all of a sudden she goes to flashback mode again. And so they start showing things. So her mother, at one point, basically when things are starting to get desperate in this basement area, one of these guys that are down there, he starts freaking out, and he wants to get out, he wants to leave, he thinks they're going to die down there. And her mother, which is Alpha, she tackles his ass and starts smothering him, basically saying, you are not going to risk the life of me or my family, my daughter, this and that, and whatever. She kills his ass. She murders him right then and there. And if that wasn't a red flag for the whole crew there, and also what was really interesting by that point in time, you could see even the husband, as he was holding Lydia as a young girl and singing to her, and he looks scared. So now the story is starting to turn tables, right? Now I'm like, I'm not so sure he's the asshole that's being depicted by her original story, right? Just doesn't seem right. Well, as we continue on a little bit further, she has to be brought back down to her cell. So Henry takes her back down, locks her back up, and spends the night, outside of the cell with her. I guess she's scared or this or that. And then the next morning, she talks to Daryl, and we get to find out the rest of the story. She basically admits that the original story was pretty much a lie. It's not her lie, it's just a lie that she's been told for years and years. And as we flash back into it, pretty much, the father is clearly trying to protect the daughter, and Alpha starts kind of freaking out herself, and she's like, we have to get out of here because the guy that she killed ends up turning that night, right? And so he comes zombified, he gets up, he starts attacking the other people. Earlier in the episode, we saw that the zombie actually took out the father, Frank, but that wasn't what happened. The zombie actually attacked somebody else. as the guy becomes zombified and starts coming back to life, Lydia runs away, scrambling to her father, right? And all chaos starts breaking out. People are trying to kill the zombies or turning on each other. It's just going mad shithouse crazy. And so Alpha, the mom, starts going over and using her knife to kind of start knocking off some of the planks on the windows and saying they got to get out of there. Frank doesn't want to leave the people. He says, these are our friends. He goes, we need to try and help them. We need to take care of this, or whatever like that. And for one thing after another, real quickly, he kind of gets knocked to the side as he's trying to help get Lydia to the side and whatnot. And he gets knocked against the wall. And friggin' Alpha goes over and puts the knife and, hand over his mouth and looks to her daughter and just kind of does the shush. And then she kills him. And I was just like, oh my God. So this story feels genuine. It sounds legit. And I feel like Lydia's actually letting on actual useful information about her mom and what she's all about. And that's very revealing. And it gives Daryl a lot of information as well about who he's truly dealing with. So, I understand that Lydia's gone through a bunch of trauma and so forth. I can be sympathetic to that. We're still way far away from saying, hey, why don't we go ahead and just let you out and you can just walk around and become part of the community. We need to build some more trust there, but I think we're jumping the gun just a little bit. And of course we are, because now, as the group is finally making their way back, Yumiko and Magna are the first ones to get to the hilltop compound, and they see Tara up there with her binoculars and so forth, and Yumiko's like, let me go talk to her, because she knows she's there in trouble. She gets up there, starts talking, and Tara's basically saying, hey, next time you're going to go behind my back, at least let's just try and talk it out first. And that's cool of Tara to be as lenient as she is with them. And then they look back out, and then they see Connie and Kelly making their way, and also a couple of Hilltop's kind of guards with them. And Tara's like, yeah, I pretty much knew from the begin, and, let's just not do this again, and so forth. And then, just as all this is finally starting to come in and they're almost home, a huge group of walkers start coming out the side, except they're not walkers. It's Alpha and her crew, and they're making their way up very quickly. And Kelly tries to turn around and beckon to her sister, like, you gotta go, you gotta come on, and there's too much distance between them. So Connie is forced to go hide into the corn stalks while Kelly and the rest get inside and so forth. And this crew, they walk straight up to pretty much the gates almost, and Alpha's out there in front, and she pretty much demands she wants her daughter back. And so, which is interesting because, again, that kind of contradicts what Lydia was saying. Lydia's saying, like, if you're left behind, or if you're captured, or you're basically assumed you're dead and they don't come back for you. Would she really have felt that her mother was going to leave her behind like that? I don't believe so. I just don't think there's a full trust. There's not full trust there between Lydia and obviously our Hilltop friends. So Maggie, yeah, they're at the front gates. Things are looking super serious. Connie's in trouble. We already saw a little small glimpse of next week's episode, and it looks like Daryl's going to go out for confrontation style, and Daryl, he doesn't like to give in, and this could be bad because they both have Alden and Luke at knives to their throats, and it doesn't sound like Daryl wants to give up Lydia, so this could be very, very bad. I hope we are not about to lose another member of our Walking Dead crew, as we've been losing them one after another, it feels like. But again, guys, this episode was pretty good and pretty interesting, and just learning some more about Alpha herself and how far she's willing to go. And it sounds like from the begin, she was willing to go that far. I mean, this woman, she seems very sadistic. And, when you try to compare these leaders, the governor, Negan, and now moving to Alpha, and it's very interesting because they all have a different style in how they go about things. And all sadistic, true, but sadistic in a different way. And so I hope to dive into that a little bit deeper as we move into the next episode. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up episode 10. Again, Omega. We're all done here for tonight. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying what you're seeing, as we're going to continue to bring you these episodes on a weekly basis, just to talk over The Walking Dead. That's what we love. Be sure to check out our other content. Check out the Dead Nightmare series we have out there. It's our zombie series on our YouTube channel. I also have some other fun things coming. I want to show you guys some of the zombie prosthetics and some of the other things I've been using to put these videos together for our series. And also, we've been writing for episode 7, and we're almost done with some of that, and hope to be filming in very early spring. So hopefully that means more content for you guys to watch very, very soon. So with that said, I am your host as always, Mike Schilling, and we will see you at the next episode of The Walking Dead. See you.